Christmas dinner. My son calls me a burden and hangs up. Outside, a wrong porch chair sits where mine was. Cheap wood, factory shine. My bank app flashes account frozen, D1 on the door. I breathe once and say, "You've mistaken silence for surrender." Kennedy that circled Christmas dinner without me on the calendar. I knew something had shifted. I carried the foil pans like a waiter who forgot he wasn't staff. Tamales, green chili and pork, the way Caroline used to season them, with a pinch of cumin she swore the recipe needed, and I swore was superstition. The porch wreath blinked white. Through the window, I could see Madison's parents in new sweaters, admiring the kitchen like it was a showroom. Grilled even the door with a quick grin. "You made it, Dad!" Quotations. "I usually do." Heat and cinnamon rolled out. The island was staged with candles and a cheese board. Madison drifted in from the stove, kissed the air near my cheek, and lifted one pan with two careful fingers. "Take perfect timing," she said. "Mom and Dad were just talking about the backsplash." Her mother ran a hand along the tile. "Some people will never know what it's like to live this well." I set the pans down. Some people helped. Madison smiled like I'd told a joke and pivoted. "You should see the drawer organizers, Mom. Life-changing." Ethan slid past me to fetch plates. "Dad's just happy to help, aren't you?" "Happy to be asked," I said. He didn't slow, and the words fell into the hum of small talk. Madison's father asked about the faucet brand. Madison answered like she'd negotiated it herself. The kitchen felt new, and it should have. I'd written checks for every square foot of that feeling. I wiped a thumb across a speck on the foil. "Where do you want these?" "Counter's fine," Madison said, arranging the tamales like props. I set my briefcase near the table. It looked wrong among the garlands. I told myself I'd brought it because I planned to help Ethan with a contractor's estimate after dinner. The truth was simpler. I like knowing where the important things are, and lately my place felt like one of them. "Wine?" Ethan asked, already pouring for Madison's parents. "Water," I said. Madison's mother lifted her glass. "To new traditions." I watched the wall calendar while I raised my cup. Big block letters, December, with little drawings of holly in the corners. On the 24th, someone had drawn a ring around Christmas dinner with a gold marker. Next to it, two neat initials I didn't recognize. "Looks like a full table," I said. Madison tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Just a casual thing with my folks." She glanced at Ethan. "We'll do New Year's with you. Quality time." "New Year's," I repeated. Nice to be penciled in. Ethan slid a platter in my hands. "Dad, could you set this on the sideboard?" My son used to ask me where things went. Tonight he handed me plates and turned away. I laid the platter down and looked around the room I'd helped raise. The rug we picked together, the chairs I sanded, the little bowl by the sink where Caroline used to drop her rings before kneading dough. Madison's mother was telling a story about a trip, all hotel lobbies and upgrades. People laughed at the right spots. I laughed too, because manners don't cost extra. "Positionales smell amazing," Ethan said, finally coming up for air. "You always nail them." "Prerequisite," I said. "I just learned." He nodded like that was quaint history and checked his phone. Madison's father tapped a spoon against his glass. "Speech," he said to Madison. "You did this whole room. Tell us about it." Laughed, palms up. "Hard work, Pinterest, and grit." "He was Manuel," I said. He'd like to hear he was grit. Madison's smile flickered, then brightened. "And Manuel. Couldn't have done it without him." I let it go. A man can spend all night correcting the record and still drive home alone. I've done both. We ate standing. Madison's parents praised everything that wasn't mine. Ethan kept the pace, moving spoons, refilling glasses, steering conversation like a host who had learned that attention was a currency and he knew how to spend it. "Dad," he said, "we're thinking of keeping Christmas dinner pretty intimate this year." "Intimate?" I said. "Like, just you four?" "Just this once," Madison said smoothly. "New Year's will be just us. More meaningful." "More meaningful than kind of meaningful?" She touched my elbow. "You understand." I looked at Ethan. "Do I?" He held my eyes for 1 second, then looked past me at the oven timer. "Can you grab the oven mitts, Dad?" "Of course," I said, and I did. The mitts hung by the calendar. Up close, I could see the ring around Christmas dinner was traced twice, like someone had gone over it while thinking. Next to the gold circle was a small sticky note with initials and a head count. No W, no dad, no room for typos. I slid the mitts on the counter and stepped back. Madison's father told another story. Madison laughed on cue. Ethan fished a trivet from a drawer and set it dead center on the table like a small, perfect target. Wilmington, Madison said, opening the exact drawer that would make the line land, are a lifesaver. Decides the room, huh? I said. Exactly. She smiled as if I'd finally learned something important. I picked up my water and took a slow drink. I've poured more than money into this place. I've poured myself. The line wasn't for them. It was for me, to mark the moment. A man doesn't always feel the weather change when the wind turns. Sometimes he notices the napkin ring is set for 4. Dad, Ethan said, softening his voice, you know how much we appreciate you. I know who says it out loud. What? Nothing, I said, and smiled like a compliant man should. Madison clapped once. Tamales before they cool. Everyone moved. I stayed where I was for a beat longer, watching the calendar. My briefcase waited by the table leg, a dark square against twinkle lights. It didn't belong, and that told me it was exactly where it needed to be. On my way out, I took the empty foil from the counter and folded it small. At the fridge, a magnet shaped like a gingerbread man pinned a narrow strip of paper, an RSVP list in Madison's neat hand. I scanned the names, tracing the curve of her letters the way a builder checks a line with his thumb. Under the magnet, the RSVP list stopped before my name. The bell over the cafe door chimed like it was trained to sound cheerful, no matter who walked in. I ordered black coffee and stood at the sugar station to make way for the stroller brigade and laptop tribes. Ethan texted, here. He didn't hug. He parked his hands in his jacket and rocked on his heels like he was in line for something better. Busy week, he said. Looks like it, I said. How's the backsplash holding up to real cooking? He grinned, relieved to start on easy terrain. Great. Madison's folks love it. I noticed. We carried cups to a table by the window. The street threw reflections across the glass. December banners, a red mailbox wrapped in ribbon, a sky that hadn't made up its mind. I watched Ethan decide how to speak to me. When my son thinks he's being kind, he chooses smaller words. So, he said, about Christmas. I waited. We're doing something a little intimate this year. He glanced at his cup. Just Madison's parents, a quiet vibe. Just the 4 of you. Just this once. He leaned forward as if that made it softer. New Year's will be just us, quality time, no distractions. Nice to be penciled in. It's just marking what I heard. It's one dinner, it's the dinner, I said, and let the sentence sit. A couple at the next table adjusted their chairs. The espresso machine hissed like it heard something worth punctuating. I don't want you to feel left out, he said. I'm not left out, I said. I'm put out. Hurt sharpens into clarity. Before he could answer, Madison breezed in, scarf knotted the way people knot them when they intend to be seen. She spotted us and lifted a hand like she'd caught a coincidence. Oh, I didn't know you were here. Coffee, Ethan said, standing halfway. Perfect, she said, dropping a kiss near his cheek, and another near mine that didn't land. Quick thing, we're keeping Christmas super small. Mom's been stressed. Dad's on a clean eating kick. He's very sensitive to big groups. 4 is famously overwhelming, I said. She laughed as if I'd helped. Exactly. So we'll do New Year's with you? Just us. We can really talk then. Oh, about what? Everything, she said brightly. Life, plans, you know. Asleep, I know. I said, I know what later means. Ethan rubbed his eyebrow. Babe? It's settled, Madison said, patting my sleeve as if I were a coat on a rack. You get us fresh for New Year's, that's better. Better for who? I asked. For all of us, she said with the confidence of someone who had already assigned chairs. I have to run. Shoot me a text about tamales for the neighbors. They adored them. She left a line of citrus perfume and management in her wake. The door chimed again. Dad, Ethan said, she's trying. At what? At making everyone happy. That's a talent, I said, harder than making room. He stared at his coffee lid. We'll do a long dinner at New Year's, promise. Ink, I said. He looked up, confused for a second, and then smiled because he wanted us to be okay. You're coming, right? To New Year's, if the invitation survives. It will. He took a breath. Don't be mad. I'm not mad, I said. I'm labeling the box. He frowned. What box? The one you put me in today. We walked outside together. The air had that thin, clean cold that tells you Christmas knows what it's doing, whether you show up or not. He checked his watch, hugged me one arm like a man remembered the gesture, and jogged toward the crosswalk. You okay? He called over his shoulder. Always, I said. It wasn't true, but it was mine to say. Back at the guest house, I set the coffee on the porch rail and placed my briefcase on the empty chair across from me. It made the chair look occupied, which helped. From here, I could see the main house lights come on early. Madison's mother loves ambience. She told me that once like it was a job. I sat and let the quiet sort the day. The tamale pans from last night leaned in the dish rack, drying into a dull shine. Caroline's apron hung on the hook by the back door, the knot she'd tied years ago, still sitting there like a small instruction I hadn't followed. The porch boards creaked in one spot, where I'd been meaning to add a screw. I didn't add it. The creak reminds me, I live here. My phone buzzed, calendar ping, D-8 Christmas dinner. The numbers glowed on the lock screen. Someone somewhere put digital effort into leaving me out and still managed to include me. That's the trick with exclusion. It keeps you informed. I walked inside and opened a drawer. Not the one with the good silver, the one with rubber bands, a tape measure, old AA batteries, a pad of yellow notes. I wrote New Year's instead and stuck it to the inside of the cabinet door. Some lies deserve a label, even if it's only for me. The guest house smelled like coffee and cinnamon from a candle Madison brought over in November, with a note that said, for your cozy nights, and I keep it lit because it smells like a memory I'd rather have than the ones I'm being given. Across the room, the briefcase sat on the chair where a person should sit. It looked patient. Ethan's car pulled into the main driveway. He got out with 2 grocery bags and a look I recognized. The one you wear when you know you've done something small that will feel big to someone else. He paused, saw me on the porch, lifted one bag like a peace flag, and went inside. I stood and took the briefcase with me, put it on the kitchen table, opened it, then closed it. A man doesn't need to pack anything to get ready. Sometimes you set a thing in the right place and wait for your spine to catch up. My phone buzzed again as dusk turned the windows into mirrors. I didn't check it. I poured the rest of the coffee and watched the steam fade. I made notes on the back of an envelope. Remodel totals, the month I paid the property taxes, the day Ethan called the contractor by his first name for the first time. Nothing legal, just lines to remind me where my money went when the story tries to forget. The house next door laughed at nothing. I stood with my hand on the light switch, listening to the kind of quiet that follows a decision you haven't said out loud yet. The phone lit the room. Ethan, we'll talk more after the holidays. He doorbell chimed and the living room answered. Voices braided through music, glass against glass, a laugh that went a little too high to be casual. I stepped in with a bakery box because showing up empty-handed is a habit I don't intend to break, even when someone else breaks the invitation. Dad, Ethan moved through guests like he'd practiced it. He relieved me of the box, set it near a tower of cookies, and did the quick introductions that sound like weather. You remember the Bradleys? And this is Jess from next door. Jess wiggled her phone in greeting. Group shot later. This room is begging for it. The room had been begging for a lot of things. The rug Caroline and I picked lay under a new coffee table. Pillows looked staged. In the corner, my briefcase sat where I'd tucked it, out of the way, out of mind. Madison floated in, fresh lipstick, hostess smile. Perfect timing, she said, and pivoted so the room could see her pivot. We were just talking about the kitchen. Come, I'll show you. The herd moved, I moved with it. Madison's mother set her fingertips on the island the way you test marble you already know is real. It's stunning, she said. Some people will never know what it's like to live this well. Some people worked for it, I said lightly. Madison laughed, palms up. Design is a job, Walter. She looked to the mini audience. We lived on Pinterest boards and samples for months, a labor of love. Ethan, eager to help, tapped the faucet. It's touch-activated, watch. He tapped. Water answered. People owed like a small miracle had occurred in a drought. Jess lifted her phone. Wait, I need this. She framed Madison with the backsplash. Yes, kitchen queen. Kitchen looks great, I said, and it landed like a coaster under a drink. Thank you, Madison said, and tucked a strand of hair. Hard work. It's hard work, I said. He and his crew stayed past 10 two nights to hit your inspection. Of silence slid across the island. Ethan filled it. Dad helped with, logistics. Helped, Madison repeated, making it neat. One of the Bradleys asked about the pantry. Madison opened the door like a magician, revealing a second act. Labeled bins, color-coded shelves, the domestic equivalent of soldiers in formation. People nodded. The compliments had an assembly line hum. I drifted back to the living room and stood near the bookshelf where Caroline's ring bowl still lived between two travel photos. The bowl looked small and sure of itself. I felt neither. Shame flashes hot. Resolve cools under it. I took a slow breath and let the cool win. Ethan followed, hand on my shoulder. You okay? Always, I said. Is Jess doing pictures? Yeah, neighbors eat it up. We reset in the living room. Jess corralled everyone. Closer, cozy. You, she pointed at me. There, by the window, we need balance. She put me. The wall calendar hung in the kitchen doorway behind us. The gold ring around Christmas dinner winked in a reflected lamplight. Jess angled her phone and said, Love that holiday vibe. Make sure it catches the tile, Madison called from the couch arm. Got it, Jess said. 1, 2. The front door swung and in came Charles and Marilyn, coats open, cheeks flushed from weather or wine or pride. We're not late, Charles announced with the confidence of a man who believes clocks bend for him. Just in time, Madison said, kissing the air near both faces. We were showing off the kitchen. Show away, Charles said, staring at the room like it was a courtroom he already owned. This feels right. I heard it the way he meant it. Ethan pressed a plate into my hands. Try the crostini, Madison's recipe. I took one to be polite and put it down to be honest. Madison came over, chin up. Thank you for the bakery box. Happy to bring something sweet, I said. There's room for it. She met my eyes a second longer than she needed to. Then she tilted her face toward Jess. Can you grab one more, all of us? Everyone squeeze, Jess said, backing up toward the hallway, phone high. There's a glare. We squeezed. My shoulder brushed the bookshelf. Ethan slid an arm around Madison. Charles found the place a patriarch expects, front and visible. I ended up at the edge, half in the frame, half out. Say, new kitchen, Jess sang. New kitchen, people said. Again, Jess said, with joy. New kitchen, they said, with joy. The phone clicked. People exhaled. Madison swept toward the island again and the crowd turned with her. I stayed a second in the doorway, the calendar behind me, like a label I hadn't stuck there. A napkin slipped from the stack. I picked it up because I was raised that way. Ethan came back, voice low. Everything good, Dad? Everything labeled, I said. That helps. He frowned. Labeled? New kitchen, new traditions, new guest lists. Nice faucet, I said. Truly. Jess's phone chimed. Posted, she announced. You all look amazing. Madison turned, hand raised for the phone like a teacher requesting homework. Tag me. iCloud handed it over. Madison scanned quickly, smile deepening, thumb working, then glanced up and offered the phone for general admiration. Take, she said to the room. She passed me without offering a look. I pulled my own phone and opened the neighborhood feed. Jess's post sat at the top. Holiday house tour. These two crushed the remodel. The photo glowed. Madison and Ethan center. Charles and Marilyn lit soft by a lamp. Neighbors smiling, heads tipped toward the camera. The backsplash behaved like a supporting actor. The wall calendar haloed the doorway with its gold ring. My face was in the frame like a mislaid thought, cropped halfway out by the edge. I stared, not long, just long enough to hear the photo tell the story they wanted. Then I slipped the phone in my pocket and looked at the briefcase in the corner. It hadn't moved. Neither had I. That would change. Dad? Ethan said behind me. Kitchen looks great, I said again, because some lines are true whether or not you get credit for them. The room kept moving. In my pocket, the screen brightened with a line of tiny hearts that didn't belong to me. Take. I cleared a space on the desk the way you clear a conscience. Slow, exact, one item at a time. The guest house office still smelled faintly of sawdust from when I built the shelves. I set the briefcase down and opened it. Hinges whispered like they were glad to work again. Top drawer, rubber bands, a carpenter's pencil worn to a stub, a square of blue painter's tape stuck to the bottom like a fossil. Second drawer, files. I pulled the folder marked House Missick and dumped it gently. A drift of envelopes slid out in a soft hiss. Property tax stubs have a particular weight. Thin paper, heavy implication. I lined them up by year. 2020, 2021, 2022. Each paid on time from my account because I don't miss dates. One envelope wore a black ink postage stamp across the corner, month and day, clean as a rule. I set it in the center and let the numbers sit where they could be seen without saying them out loud. My phone woke itself. A widget in the corner with a holly icon and D5 in cheerful green. I tapped the screen. Off. The clock will do its work whether I watch it or not. Footsteps crossed the gravel outside. Voices rose, Madison's bright, her mother's powdered, her father's baritone tugging on words until they fit him better. I didn't go to the window yet. I pulled a fresh folder from the drawer and wrote in block letters, taxes and transfers. The marker bled slightly on the tab. Good. I want the ink to look like it intends to stay. A knock on the side door. Ethan stuck his head in, smile rehearsed to look unrehearsed. You busy? Sorting the year, I said. Desk and stopped. Wow, that's organized. Helps me think. I tapped the envelope with the stamp, let him see the date without seeing all of it. Taxes remind you who actually lives with the house. Dad, he said softly, don't make this about money. It's about record, I said. Money is just the ink. He exhaled, shoulders dipping. I wanted to swing by and say, New Year's is a lock. We'll make it special, promise. Put it in ink. Had sharper edges than he expected. We don't need to turn this into a thing. It already is a thing, you're just naming it later. Flattened on the door frame. Madison's folks, they're excited. They don't always get holidays like this. Paid for a few holidays they did get, I said level. He glanced at the stack. You kept all that? I build for a living, I said. Foundations first. He shifted, juggling guilt and practicality like 2 bags of groceries. I know you helped. I tell people you helped. Helping is a verb, I said. Credit is a noun. Calm hardens into intention. His lips pressed into a thin line. I'm not trying to cut you out. You just circled a night and forgot a name. He rubbed his jaw. It's one dinner. It's the dinner, I said the same way the calendar said it without flinching. He looked around the room as if the shelves might help him. What are you doing with all this? Putting things where they belong, which is in a folder for now. He straightened, trying to reset the mood. Okay, well, we'll see you at New Year's. Maybe I'll see you sooner, I said. He heard the shape of that and didn't like it. Dad, don't do anything dramatic. I don't do drama, I said. I do measurements. He tried a smile. It didn't take. We're family. That's why I'm labeling the drawers before they stick. From the driveway, a burst of laughter, Madison's mother's high note, Madison's harmony, Charles's satisfied hum underneath. Ethan glanced toward the sound, then back at me. I should go help bring in groceries. Go host, I said. He hesitated at the threshold. Seriously, you know New Year's is locked, right? Put it in ink, I repeated, softer, so he could treat it like a joke if he needed to. He left the door half open, the way he used to when he was a teenager, hoping the room would finish a conversation he didn't want to have. I closed it. I took a slow pass through the desk. 1 document beat, not 2. I chose the stamped envelope and slid the other stubs back into the folder. I clipped the chosen one to the fresh Taxes and Transfers tab and placed the folder in the briefcase, topmost. I don't need a mountain to move a wall. I need 1 brick the hinge can't ignore. The phone tried again with a cheerful blink. D5. I let it glow and fade. Outside, I heard car doors shut and the scrape of a box against the porch rail. Voices came with the rhythm of people who know they're expected. I moved to the small office window and tilted the blind one slat. The main house sat in winter light, handsome as a brochure. Madison stood by the trunk orchestrating bags with 2 fingers. Her mother laughed at something small and mean. Her father adjusted his scarf for effect. Ethan carried the load. He turned toward the guest house and lifted his chin a millimeter. An apology in a dialect only we know. I nodded back because we share the language even when we're not saying the same thing. I looked down at the desk. The briefcase sat open, half-filled, documents a neat mouth waiting for the next word. I rested my palm on the leather. Crimson. About New Year's, Ethan called from the driveway. See you, I said to the empty room. The laughter carried across the gravel like it had tickets. I let the blind fall shut and faced the desk again. My hand didn't shake when I moved the stamped envelope a 1/4 inch to square it with the folder edge. It's a small thing, making lines true. It's also how you build anything worth standing in. The text thread lit like a porch light you didn't ask for. Ethan, quick favor, can you pick up Madison's parents tomorrow? 6:40 p.m., arrival. We're slammed. Me, who sent you my calendar? Bounced. They looked eager. Madison, you're the only one who drives calmly in the rain.
Gate B. They'll have 2 large bags, plus a garment bag, LOL. Me. Airline?
Delta. Thanks, Dad. Lifesaver. Before I agreed. That's a trick. Put gratitude on the table and call it consent. I set the phone face down and picked up the folder marked Taxes and Transfers. The stamped envelopes sat where I left it. Next stack, bank statements. Caroline used to file them by quarter. I file them by usefulness. At the branch, the lobby smelled like winter coats and printer toner. A teller with a crisp name tag Maya waved me forward.
Morning, I said.
I need a transaction summary printed for mortgage transfers to E&M Ramirez household, last 6 years. Account ending 317. Her eyebrows rose just a notch.
We can print a summary by payee and date range.
That'll do. And printer coughed out pages. Maya squared the stack and slid it to her left, where a heavy red stamp waited like a little judge. Please stamp each page with today's date, I said. She glanced at me, curious but professional. All pages? Undy. Thud twist, thud twist, thud twist. The ink sank into paper like commitment. She initialed the corner of the first page and handed the pile across. Segregation, 1 doc fee, she said. I paid cash. The whole procedure took 3 sentences of my day, which is the exact amount of ceremony money deserves. Back in the truck, I buckled the briefcase into the passenger seat and slid the stamp stack inside. The leather creaked. You and me, I said to it. We're going to a party. Rain started as a scratch, then a steady test of wiper blades. My phone buzzed at a red light. Ethan, you good for tomorrow? Michaels, why me? Unsuccessful. You're closest, plus they adore you. Also, parking is a nightmare. I'll be so grateful. You know how they are in new places. Type. I typed, deleted, typed again. Resolve tightens, refusal forms under politeness. Me. Ask the man you gave my chair to. The bubble stopped. New message. Ethan. Dad, come on, it's just a pickup. Me. Exactly, just a pickup. He didn't answer. The screen dimmed. The rain flirted with freezing and then remembered itself. I pulled into the driveway and killed the engine. Across the gravel, the main house glowed like a catalog shot. Madison's mother's silhouette passed the window, then Madison's, then Charles's, arms moving like they were directing a small orchestra. I carried the briefcase inside and set it on the table. Opened it. The stamped bank summary went on top, facing up, the date like a flag. The phone buzzed again. Stabilized. Hey, if the pickup is too much, just say so. We'll make alternate arrangements. Madison. But you're really the best at this kind of thing. You always save the day. Our driver. Me. I'm not your said you were. Your family. This is what family does. I looked at the stamp. Decintellider, 20, ink exact, no emojis. I printed a single cover sheet with 2 columns, date and amount. Hand wrote the totals that lined up with the bank pages and paper clipped it to the top. A bank stamp makes strangers listen. Handwriting makes family look twice. The phone rang. Voice call now. I let it go to voicemail and listened to the message through speaker. Dad, it's me, Ethan said. You know, they're high maintenance. It'll mean a lot if you just handle it. Don't make this bigger than it is. Raga wanted to keep it. I don't keep many voicemails. Some you keep for the shape of the ask. I made a sandwich I didn't want and threw half away. Old man habit. Put food between you and a decision. See which one wins. The decision won. At 3, I drove back to the branch and asked Maya for a spare envelope large enough for the stack. She handed me one and a roll of clear tape. Holiday projects? She said, smiling. Take just labeling drawers before they stick, I said. She laughed politely, not getting it, which was fine. I sealed the envelope, wrote mortgage transfers across the front, and slid it into the briefcase next to taxes and transfers. 2 bricks. A wall starts to look like a wall when it casts a shadow. On the way home, I pulled into the short-term lot at the airport and watched arrivals for 5 minutes. Gate B spit out families in sweaters, a man carrying a cactus in a box, a woman arguing with a child about mittens. The curb looked like chaos that charged by the minute. I imagined myself in it, then imagined myself not in it. Only one of those versions felt like respect. The phone vibrated as I turned onto our street. Ethan, so we're all set? Me, I'll let you know. Let you know is a complete sentence. Dusk turned the guest house windows into rectangles of steel. I parked under the pine, carried the briefcase inside, and set it on the chair again, buckled straps still twisted like a seatbelt that remembered being useful. The room was quiet in the kind way, not the empty kind. I put the stamp stack on the table and sat with it for a full minute without touching it, the way you sit with a truth until it stops trying to charm you. My phone chimed a calendar tone I hadn't set. Airport pickup, 6:40 p.m. tomorrow. Under it, the little D4 badge winked like a dare. The event was tagged to the shared family calendar Madison manages. She's good at managing. I stared. My thumb hovered. I opened the event and tapped delete. The phone asked if I was sure. I am, I said to a piece of glass, and tapped again. The alert blinked out. The thread from Ethan and Madison sat open below it. Bright blue requests stacked over a grayed-out question. Only Lee. I didn't repels into the truck bed when I heard my name like a question mark. Walter. Rosa from 2 streets over stood by her hatchback, scarf crooked, phone in her mitten. She teaches 2nd grade and notices things for a living. Hey, Rosa. She lowered her voice. You on Neighborhood Circle? I read it when the raccoons unionize. She half smiled, then winced. Madison posted something, might just be tone deaf, might be worse. Show me. She held out her phone. Madison's face filled the screen, kissy angle from the new kitchen. Caption, hosting is a skill. Some folks make tamales, some of us make a home. Under it, a comment from her friend. Your parents must be so proud you did it all yourself. Small recently, Madison replied, they taught me not to rely on others. The timestamp at the top felt cold. December 20, 5:12 p.m. Again, I'm not trying to stir, it didn't sit right. You did right, I said. Could you DM me the link? Already did. She hesitated. You okay? I'm labeling drawers before they stick. The hurt turns practical, pride trimmed to fit the facts. She nodded like she understood more than most and drove off. I sat in the cab and opened the message thread. Rosa had sent 3 links and a short line. Grab these fast, she sometimes edits captions. I tapped the first. Madison again, this time with a glass of wine, backsplash staged behind her like an award. Caption, finally have a home that feels like ours. No more hand-me-down energy. Reluctant, I took a screenshot. At the top, the system stamped 5:16 p.m. I took another from the comments. Next year, we're keeping it intimate. Quality obligation. Someone had added, clapping hands. Madison had added a gold heart. My lock screen blinked D-3 in the corner, a holiday badge doing its job. The clock didn't care who felt included, it only cared about getting there on time. Back at the guest house, I set the briefcase on the kitchen table and flipped it open. The leather made the kind of sound that says work. I slid out a thin sleeve and labeled it Social Archive. Printer on, air warm with a faint plastic tang. I sent the screenshots to print at 100%, no filters. On the top right corner, the timestamp sat like a small judge. I didn't circle it. I don't underline gravity. Patiently, first page landed. I aligned it with the second and the third. Each bore the little slug beneath the caption, Madison, living, and the time. I stacked them clean and pressed my thumb to the corner to set their memory. Then I slid them into the sleeve. The printer hummed to a halt. In the quiet, a smaller hum, my head, opening a door I've kept shut. A flashback doesn't knock, it pulls you. Auki had come to the house the day after Ethan found a guy. He didn't look like a Pinterest board. He looked like a man who makes things square. We walked the kitchen with tape measures. Madison pointed, Carolina blue nails tracing lines in the air. Open shelving here, full height pantry, waterfall edge. Dash. Waterfall's extra, Manuel said. I'll cover it, I said. Ethan, Dad, that's not... Treat, I said, and I meant it, because back then my generosity was a way to keep the room from shrinking. The first transfer hit 2 days later, $4,800 with WR-E&M household in the memo. Then another for appliances, then the property tax when the envelope came late, and Ethan sounded harried. Caroline used to say, if it keeps people from worrying, do it. I did it. Worry doesn't retire, it learns new work. The phone buzzed, Ethan again, inside a thread that had learned my name without earning it. Ethan, airport tomorrow still possible. They'll be really grateful. Posts, front lines bubble. Ethan, she's joking. Social tone, you know how it is. E different when you're the punchline. Ethan, Dad, don't overthink it. People post. It's nothing. Nothing was printed on my table with the time it arrived. Tay, another ping, Rosa. Grab the story too, it's a reel. It auto-deletes in 24 hours. She sent instructions like a teacher. Tap the 3 dots. Save. I opened Madison's reel. She walked through the kitchen, voiceover. We wanted a space that reflects us, not what was here. The camera swung past the ring bowl Caroline used to use. My name didn't make the cut. I saved it to my device and took a screenshot of the save confirmation because chain of custody starts with a decision, not a courtroom. Printer again. 1 page. Save screen with 6:02 p.m. 2nd page. Still frame from the reel with the backsplash and the caption. Slides into social, archive behind the others. The guest house clock clicked to the half hour. I poured water and didn't drink it. Across the yard, the main house lit like a theater. Somewhere inside, Madison's parents practiced being pleased. Somewhere inside, my son practiced keeping me at a distance without saying it. Another text from Ethan. Let's not make social media the hill to die on. You know she appreciates you. Me. I know what appreciation looks like. It has verbs. Ethan. We'll talk New Year's. Promise. There it was again, later in a new font. I slid social archive into the briefcase behind taxes and transfers and mortgage transfers. 3 sleeves now. The weight changed when I lifted it. Not much. Enough. Airport pickup, the phone prompted. Some calendar ghost I hadn't exercised. I dismissed it and put the phone face down. Through the kitchen window, I could see Charles testing a porch lamp like he owned photons. Madison laughed, head back. Her mother adjusted a scarf. The picture from the market played over their silhouettes like a caption I didn't write. My phone lit again with Ethan's name. I let it buzz down, then tapped open, not to answer, to stare. He had sent a final line. You know we love you, right? Of Madison's last caption and the time above it. The photo preview sat in the corner of the screen, waiting to be filed. I filed it. Then I slid the briefcase shut and set my hand on the leather until the impulse to reply passed. Rumai's rain stitched the dark into long lines across the window. I set the briefcase by the door because I was raised to meet people standing, not seated. The knock came sharp enough to sound rehearsed. I opened to Ethan on the step, rain glittering on his jacket. Behind him, Madison held her phone like a compass. Charles and Marilyn hovered under an umbrella that cost more than courtesy. "Dad," Ethan said, "we've been calling." I saw. My phone buzzed in my palm. D2 glowed on the lock screen and faded. Madison smiled without warmth. "We were stranded at baggage claim for 20 minutes. It's not a good look, at your age, to leave people waiting." "You scheduled me," I said. "I didn't RSVP." Charso lifted his phone. The red rec circle bloomed. "Say that again," he said. "Ack into the entry. Come in out of the rain if you're going to perform." They came just far enough to drench the rug. Marilyn clutched her scarf. "We were abandoned," she said to Charles's lens. "In this weather, at our age." "You arrived in a car service," I said. "I can see the receipt on your screen." Madison's eyes flicked. Charles tilted his phone to crop the edge. "Let's stay on message," he murmured. Ethan tried to split the difference. "Dad, it would have been easier if you just driven the people who told me I don't belong at Christmas," I said. "No." Madison's mouth rounded. "That was a misunderstanding." "You labeled it perfectly," I said. "New Year's instead." Charles angled closer. "Walter, are you saying you refuse to help family during a holiday storm?" "I'm saying I'm not your driver." "Roll that again," he told Madison, like I was a line he needed cleaner. Ethan stepped between us, palms up. "Can we not do this?" "Mom," he caught himself. Madison's mom didn't feel well. The airport was chaos. "We needed you." "You needed a prop," I said. Madison's eyebrows hopped. "Prop? Something to make you look generous when you aren't." I kept my voice level. "You don't get to write my character on my porch." Charles grunted, pleased. "Got it," he said to his screen. Marilyn drew a little breath, like a flinch she wanted captured. "He's cruel when he drinks," she told the phone. "I'm holding water," I said, lifting the glass. It looked good on camera anyway. Ethan looked pained. "Dad, please." "I set a boundary," I said. "You set a camera." Rain gusted against the door. The briefcase sat by my boot like a patient witness I hadn't called yet. Madison softened her voice into the one she uses for clerks. "Walter, we're exhausted. We just wanted to be welcomed." "You tore up the welcome with a gold pen," I said, "and circled your own names." Charles shifted to catch my face straight on. The timer on his screen read 047. He smiled like a fisherman. "So you admit you left us at the airport?" "I admit I didn't agree to a job I wasn't hired for. Family is hired by blood," Marilyn whispered to the lens and dabbed at nothing. Ethan turned to her. "Mom, Marilyn, let's not." "Mother," she said, grateful the phone had heard it. Position stepped in tight, inches of perfume, eyes bright with tactics. "Can you just say you're sorry? We can put this behind us." "For what?" I asked. "For making us look small," she said, and then regretted saying it out loud. I let the line sit with her. "You manage your own size." Ethan sighed. "Dad, can you do one thing for me? Say we misunderstood each other." "You understood me," I said. "You just didn't like the answer." Charles aired to cut Ethan's face out of frame. "Walter, this is sad," he said softly, like a priest who likes the sound of sin. "Your neighbors will see this and know." "I hope they do," I said, with the sound on, then smiled again. "You can't win this," he added for the camera. "People believe what they watch." "Then you should watch it all," I said, "not just the part you like." Roofing Satan rubbed his forehead. "We're tired. Let's go." Madison nodded, but not to him, to the phone. He tried one more time with me. "New Year's? Okay. We'll clean this up. We'll talk like adults." "Talk is free," I said. "Respect costs." "We respect you," Madison snapped, then softened the edges. "We do." "Crear, you post," I said. In through the door, Marilyn shivered for the lens. "I can't be out in this," she said. "Then go inside your house," I said, and tipped my chin toward the main walkway. Charles lowered the phone half an inch and gave me the smile you save for juries. "Last chance to do the right thing." "I've been doing it," I said. Madison's jaw flexed. "Let's go. We have guests." "You always do," I said. They backed onto the porch. Charles flicked his thumb across the screen. The rec dot blinked out, replaced by a progress wheel and the word posting. He turned the phone slightly so I could see it, like a magician showing a card after it's up his sleeve. Don't, Ethan said under his breath. Madison touched his arm. It's already done. Menses buzzed again. A mention flag slid across the top. At Cedar Grove Chronicle tagged you. I didn't open it. The rain got louder. The briefcase by the door stayed shut. Some tools you don't raise for sound bites. Some you bring to the room where decisions are made. Lean and cold, the kind that makes cheap metal ring when you touch it. I set coffee to drip, opened the briefcase on the table, and slid last night's stack an inch to the left. Space means you're about to add something. Position answered on the second knock. Cardigan over pajamas, hair in a clip that had survived a school year. Saw your porch light at 5, she said. You okay? Constrained trying it, I said. Can I trouble you for the ring clip from last night? Charles filmed in tight. I want the wide. Of course. She stepped out onto her porch and pointed to the camera eye like she was introducing a friend. It caught everything from about shoulder height. We stood shoulder to shoulder as she scrolled the timeline. The thumbnail showed umbrellas, an angle of my door, Charles's phone at chin level. She hit share. A panel slid up. Send link/export video. Send me both, I said. Link now, export when it's ready. Rosa tapped, then held her screen toward me so I could see the confirmation. Export requested, hashtag RG-231223-0742. It'll email you when done. Exited. Encuento. Shirts gave me a look teachers reserve for stubborn kids who just did the smart thing. I'll keep an eye out. If they post more, I'll send it. Aber. Breached. Be a good neighbor back, she said. Let me know you're not alone in this. I'm not. Anger cooled to purpose, hands steady. On the walk back, I texted the camera company for my own porch archive. The chatbot bounced me to a human. Rep, please confirm date/time window. Blinked, December 22, 6:07 p.m., front cam plus audio. Polishing. Rep, copy, retrieval ID, CV8891. You'll get a download link within 24 hours. I screenshotted the chat with the ID and dropped it into Social Archive with a sticky note, wide plus own audio. Bullish. 9, I was at Bennett's Locks and Keys, a narrow shop that smelled like brass and stories. Keys hung on boards like medals. A radio whispered a ball game nobody was playing. Meliors. Morning, the man behind the counter said. His name patch read, Tony. He had forearms like he trusted torque wrenches. Need a rekey on a guest house, I said. Deadbolt and knob. Tomorrow if you can swing it. He whistled. Christmas Eve? I swing, but it costs an extra cup of coffee. Excluded in pie? Now you're talking. And he slid a card across and wrote with a felt tip that bled confidence. 12:24, 9 a.m. Then he stamped the corner with a shop seal because men who cut keys believe in marks you can feel. I held the card like it mattered, which it did, and clipped it under the briefcase strap. Tony, I want a clean moment at the door. Keys fail. You try their copy. It doesn't turn. He said, you call it, I play it. Demolish new cylinder in case we decide to make it official. He grinned. You strike me as a decide guy. Only when pushed. On the way home, the briefcase rode open on the passenger seat, card visible like a ticket. The phone buzzed. D1 floated on the lock screen, green and cheerful. The countdown doesn't ask if you're ready. It asks if you're paying attention. Unauthorized from Ethan arrived in the lane near our mailbox. Saw a couple comments last night. Can you be gracious and not fan it? We'll smooth it out at New Year's. Me, gracious isn't the same as absent. Take, Ethan. Charles got heated. Mom's upset. Just don't escalate. Me, I'm documenting. That's not escalation. That's memory with receipts. Dots. Pause. You're making this legal. I'm making it accurate. I pulled into the drive. Across the gravel, Madison's parents stood on the porch conferring over a phone like codebreakers. Madison popped the door with her hip, caught my eye, and gave me the smile that says, I'm in charge of optics. Inside, I set the briefcase on the counter and transferred the locksmith card to my hand. The paper was stiff, the ink still a touch glossy. 12:24, 9 a.m. I pressed it flat with 2 fingers and felt the stamp dent under my skin. The laptop chimed. New email. Ring, export ready. I opened it. RG-231223-0742. Download link valid 7 days. The clock in the email header read 10:11 a.m. I didn't download yet. I took a screenshot of the email body first, sender, subject, timestamp, and slid it into social archive to mark the chain. Then I clicked the link and watched the progress wheel spin like patience. Balloons. Camera Co. Retrieval ready. CV8891. They were fast. I opened that too, took the same chain of custody shot of the email, and started the download. 2 files side by side, each with a name that would make sense to somebody in a hearing. Rosa Front 1222 1800 1900.mp4 and Walter Front 1222 1800 1900.wav. The phone buzzed again. Ambiguous. This is getting weird. Charles says you threatened him. Me, I said no. People hear threat when they expect compliance. Chung, can you just not post anything, please? Deflate, me. I'm not posting, I'm saving. We'll talk when the room has a table and a clock. Combating, a thumbs up. Then, love you, then deleted the love you before it showed as delivered. The interface still flashed the deletion, some tells you can't edit. 9 a.m. on the appointment card, added Tony and his number under the stamp, and walked it to the fridge. Madison once brought over novelty magnets shaped like tiny houses. I used one to pin the card at eye level. The card looked good there, plain and official. In the reflection of the steel, I caught my face set the way it gets when I'm about to pour a footing. From the window, I could see Rosa's porch across the way. I texted her a single line. Request received, export pending. She replied with 3 check marks and a tiny bicep I decided to accept as solidarity. The downloads finished with soft bell sounds. I didn't watch, not yet. Watching is dessert. Chain of custody is dinner. I copied both files to a labeled thumb drive, porch_12222, and clicked eject because I believe in doing small things right where anyone could see me do them. Blinked, one muscle buzzed one more time. Ethan, can you come by later? Mom's, Marilyn's, saying we should clear the air. Submerged me, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9. Doorway, bring whatever key you think works. Dots, no answer. I looked at the fridge, the locksmith, 9 a.m. Card sat under a little green house. Next to it, a sticky note from last week. New Year's instead, 2 bits of paper, 2 promises. Only one had a stamp. On the laptop, the file icons sat like square rafts ready to carry weight. On my phone, Rosa's export pending message sat above the Camera Co. CV8891 confirmation. The screen dimmed to black. My reflection held. Positioned my coffee cup and set it upside down to dry. Then I turned off the kitchen light and let the morning sit with the card on the fridge, waiting for tomorrow to arrive right on time. Tony's van rolled up at 8:58. Blue letters on the door fogged by his own exhaust. He hopped out with a canvas bag and the calm of a man who has made a lot of doors honest. Morning, he said. You ready to make this click? Ready, I said, and tapped the porch post where my camera sat. Its tiny LED blinked awake. We'll keep it clean. Penetrating, he flipped the work order on his clipboard and pressed it against the doorframe to sign. The shop stamp thudded red into the corner. December 24th, 9 a.m. He tore off my copy and set it on the little entry table where the lens could see it. Footsteps on gravel. Ethan and Madison coming quick, with Charles and Marilyn at surveillance distance near the azalea. Madison's jaw was set like she'd trained it. What is this? Ethan asked. Maintenance, I said. Wilmington crouched, studied the strike plate, then glanced up. Before I start, we do the test. He held out his palm. Key? Unfor produced the copy I'd given him years ago. Metal flashed. He pushed it into the deadbolt. It slid in. He twisted. Retally. He pulled back, frowned, tried again with that pointless extra torque people give problems they don't understand. The key stuck halfway through the arc and stalled like a bad decision. Tony kept his face neutral for the camera. If the key fit, I said, you'd already be inside. Son made a tiny scoff. He is inside. It's his house. Wrote. Ma'am, the mechanism's out of alignment. Huffins, when cylinders wear, or when people copy old keys. He tapped the metal with his driver. See that? The bitting's shallow. Ethan forced a smile at the neighbors watching from 2 yards over. We're just doing a check, he called. No big deal, Ethan echoed, but the lines at her eyes said otherwise. Tony nodded to me. You want me to go ahead? Yes, I said. Replace both, deadbolt and knob. Ethan stepped between Tony and the door. Hold out of Referus. Keep it somewhere dry. I took the weight. Cool metal hummed through the paper. Behind us, my camera's indicator blinked steady. Tony set the fresh cylinder, seated the tailpiece, and turned his key. The bolt glided like it had been waiting all year to be correct. Tried his copy again. It went in. It didn't turn. See, Tony said low. New code, old key, no joy. Madison's voice sharpened. This is petty. This is precise, I said. Charles edged closer, phone chest high. Overreach on camera, he muttered, pleased with his new line. Tony stood, wiped his hands on a rag, and filled out the bottom of the work order. He held the paper up without flourish so the lens could catch the stamp. Done at 9:21, he said aloud, for anyone later who needed the time, and tore off my copy. It fluttered to the entry table next to the new keys. Ethan's mouth worked around a civil tone. Dad, you're making it impossible to come and go. You worry. Coming and going is the whole problem, I said. You've been doing both without asking. We're family, Madison said. We live here. You live there, I said, tipping my chin toward the main house. This is mine to protect. 714 angled his phone toward Ethan. Say you were denied entry to the residence, he coached. Say it clearly. Ethan's eyes flicked to the camera on my post, then to Tony, then to me. We're going to talk about this, he said instead. We are, I said. Tonight? After you text me first. Tony placed 2 new keys on the table. One for you, one for your records, he said. I can cut duplicates, but only with authorization from him. He jerked his chin toward me. Professional, not combative. Up a key like she might pocket it on principle. Tony's eyebrows went up a millimeter. She set it back down. Anything else, he asked me. Yeah, I said and nodded toward the door. Let's show the turn. Pullery? He did. Smooth in, quarter twist, soft click. Back out again, all in one clean motion that will read like a lullaby when someone plays it in slow, frame by frame. Ethan blew air through his nose. Congratulations, he said. You locked your family out of Christmas. You slid the work order into the briefcase and tucked the wrapped old cylinder beside taxes and transfers like a relic with a purpose. The briefcase gulped the weight in silence. Ethan's phone vibrated. Mine did too. I glanced down. Position. We need to talk, tonight. I turned the brown paper bundle in my palm, cool metal patient under my skin, and let the text sit without an answer. The wire cleared at 1:17 p.m. On the monitor, the escrow portal refreshed and painted certainty in blue. Deposit received. Below it, a neat row of text that mattered more than relief. Transaction time, 1:17 p.m. I let my finger hover over the screen long enough for the glass to know I'd read it. In the dark edge of the monitor, my porch chair sat reflected like a witness that finally got its seat back. Testify phone rang. I picked up on the second buzz. Rose Services, this is Carla. Walter Ramirez, I said. Confirm you see the deposit? Said, keys ticking. Funds posted. Protective conditions, active. Any changes now require bilateral sign-off. Spell that for me. No unilateral changes by the other party, she said, patient as a person who reads rules for a living. And because we've recorded the deposit today, the freeze clause starts now. Accompany, I said. Email confirmation? It's already in your inbox. 1 page, time-stamped. That'll do. Unsuccessful, and kept looking at the screen, cool triumph edged with urgency. The portal showed D7 under a small icon of a gavel. 7 is a friendly number until it isn't. The phone buzzed again, this time my cell, Ethan. Madison wants to, he started. Cree or her on, I said. Static, a breath. Walter, Madison said, voice pitched for civility. Charles tells me you moved money. I moved certainty. You made it combative, she said. This could have been a conversation. Blasted those. I tried those, I said. You scheduled a holiday without me. That's not the point right now. Paper rustled on her end. I pictured her at the big island, posture tall, script ready. If you've set conditions we don't agree with, we're prepared to bring that to the board. You're bringing it anyway. Consult her? She let the word purr. We sit down like adults and find a softer landing. Ethics didn't stop you when you tried to change my locks. Silence, then a sharp inhale. We didn't. You filmed my front room and called it care, I said. We read vocabulary differently. Moosh Ethan cut in. Dad, can we please not throw gasoline? Christmas is tomorrow. Then stop lighting matches, I said. Another line beeped in. Charles. I merged him like I was setting chairs around a table. Walter, he said, already irritated at the delay. I'm told you're forcing escrow. I'm following the agreement, I said. The one you said you read? I read all the agreements, he said. This one is porous. The funds aren't. He chuckled like he'd been in better rooms than mine. You've just frozen yourself too. Ever think of that? Every minute, I said. I'm comfortable. You can't win a board hearing with a bank screen, he said. Optics matter. Discredit me, I said. I brought receipts and optics. Hot. You're embarrassing Ethan. Ethan is old enough to be embarrassed by his own choices. Okay, Ethan said, enough. I took them off speaker and put the cell to my ear. We can go line by line at the hearing, I said. That's where adults go when the living room fails. We'll see you there, Charles said, the promise and the threat wrapped together. The line clicked dead. I let the dial tone run a second longer than required and set the phone down. The porch chair's reflection held steady in the monitor's dark edge. It looked like it had opinions again. My email pinged. Escrow services. Confirmation. I opened the PDF and skimmed for the only line I needed. Funds received, protections active. The timestamp at the top matched the portal and would make any reasonable person nod. I didn't print it. I saved it to evidence.escrow and copied it to the thumb drive labeled porch_1222 because I don't trust single points of failure, even pleasant ones. Knuckles on wood. Ethan stood in the doorway, hair damp, no umbrella. He didn't sit. I didn't offer the seat. Madison's upset, he began. She's invested, I said. She says you made it impossible to talk. We're talking, I said. Your side loves public rooms until the rules arrive. He rubbed his neck. Is there a version of this where we don't end up in front of the board? Yes, I said. The version where you stop treating me like a button you can press. That's not fair. Unleashed. It is accurate. Shifted his weight. You wired money? Escrow, I said. It's what people do when they mean it. He looked at the screen like it might surprise him. What does this even get you? Time, measured in protections, I said. And a seat at the table you keep reserving for other people. He leaned in, eyes scanning the portal. D7? So we have a week? We had a week, I said, before anyone decided to move the goalposts. Top chimed, a sound I'd set for system notices and bad news. A new window slid over the portal. Board admin, hearing notice, update. I clicked. The notice filled the screen in grayscale bluntness. Hearing, date, moved to Thursday, December 28, 10 o'clock a.m. Someone in the office had added a digital stamp that always looked like ink. Updated. Me blew out a breath. That's sooner. Discontent, I said. He swallowed. Dad. Underestimated. Tonight, I said, talk. He stared at the screen and found nothing to say that wouldn't break something else. We'll be ready, he said finally, which meant Charles would be busy. Bring your posts, I said, and your copies of the key. He made a face. This reads vindictive. It reads documented, I said. Cool triumph edged with urgency. He glanced toward the porch, maybe looking for the old chair. The reflection held his shape instead of mine now. He stepped back. I'll tell Madison, he said, and left before I had to give him permission. When the house got quiet again, I reopened the escrow tab and took one slow breath through my nose. This is what a footing feels like, firm under the boot but still curing. On the screen, deposit received, 01:17 p.m., glowed like a small lighthouse. Next to it, the D7 badge kept its cheerful lie. Behind it, the admin notice hovered. Hearing date, December 28th, 10 a.m., with that gray updates that might as well have been a finger tap on my shoulder. Windows share the view a second longer. Win and compression, living on the same glass. Then lowered the laptop until the hinge whispered shut, leaving the board's stamped notice framed in the narrowing gap. I set the board's hearing notice square on the fridge and wrote D-6 under the date with a fat black marker. The number looked calmer when it had a box around it. Across the room, the porch chair through the window was angled toward the driveway, like it expected company. The HOA office smelled like toner and lemon. A plexiglass shield split the counter. I slid my packet under it. A cover letter, the cropped still of Charles's phone pointed at my face, a one-page excerpt from the rules with a yellow bar over the only sentence we needed. No resident shall record or publish images or audio of a neighbor on their property without consent if used to harass or intimidate. A woman in a navy cardigan appeared. "Walter Ramirez?" "Yes," unsaid, offering a gloved hand to bump. "Board admin, not the escrow, Carla. Same name, different fights. You're filing a conduct complaint ahead of Thursday's hearing?" "Safeguard." I tapped the highlight. "This line." She scanned quickly, lips moving once on the clause, then nodded. "We'll timestamp and circulate to the board. You'll get a digital receipt in an hour." That's all I need to hear. My phone vibrated. "Ethan." "Hey," he said, skipping hello. "Madison says you're filing. Can we not do that? It makes it worse. For everybody." "A clean record is only scary if you've got dirt on it. That's not fair." "Is accurate." I kept my voice gentle enough to be heard through pride. "You wanted me to be gracious. This is me choosing a table with rules." "Dad, the neighborhood will see it as you going nuclear." "The neighborhood saw yours quieter than that." Silenced. He exhaled. "Charles thinks you're bluffing." "Charles can think in whichever room he likes," I said. "Thursday we meet in mine." Carla slid my packet into a scanner sleeve. The machine thunked like a small judge. She stamped the intake page with a rubber seal that left a shallow dent. "Received" bloomed in red. Quiet resolve in seeing formal complaint stamped. "Prejudice?" I asked. She looked over the top of her glasses. "Stick to the facts. Bring one copy of everything. The board hates novels, and," she hesitated, "don't let them turn it into Christmas theater. Happens every year." "Appreciated." Bagged rule on the table and took one photo. No angles, no filters. One evidence beat per chapter keeps the story honest. I slipped the print into social archive, then looked out at the porch chair again. It was a small thing, that angled toward the drive, but it felt like posture. Lane from 2 doors down stood on the step, knitted hat low, gloves mismatched. She's the kind of neighbor who keeps spare batteries in the history of every fence line. "Can I say something without getting pulled into your war?" she asked. "You can say what you saw," I said. She stepped closer to the threshold. "I was out with the dog the other night. I saw Madison's dad holding his phone at you, real close. And I heard her say, 'Make sure it looks like,'" she stopped, eyes tipping to the side. I shouldn't guess the end of a sentence. "You don't have to," I said. "That first part is plenty." She nodded. "And the next morning your son told me in passing, 'Ignore whatever you see online. It's complicated.' He looked not proud. Excluded." "That helps," I said. "Would you say that to a board if asked?" "I'd say, 'I have a dog that needs walking and I don't like bullies,'" she swallowed. "I won't be the face of this, but if someone asks me a yes or no, I'll tell the truth. Unborn a witness ever owes." Shredded at her hat. "There's one more thing I could say, but no, I'm not spreading rumors." "What thing?" She shook her head. "I'll hold it until someone with a gavel asks. Better that way." Didn't push. People close up when you shove. They open when you leave the door ajar. Her eyes went to the fridge. D6, she read. "You'll be okay." "Footing," I said. She glanced at the porch chair, angled like it was keeping watch. Looks like you already did, she said and headed down the walk. My phone lit again. Carla, board admin. Receipt complaint number H-1223-11. I opened it, a single page stamped with a line that calmed the room. Received and docketed for 12:28, 10 a.m. Another buzz, unknown caller. I let it hit voicemail. When the transcript appeared, it was Charles's voice, careful and loud enough to survive a screenshot. This is a courtesy call. If you think you can spin a board with a highlighter, you're underestimating us. Shameful, I saved the voicemail and put the phone face down. The fridge marker line around D-6 looked blacker now that the stamp email sat behind it. Position, the driveway stayed empty. The chair didn't mind. It just faced the direction trouble usually comes from. Ring at the side door. Ethan again, hair damp from the kind of rain that can't decide to commit. He stood on the threshold, not crossing. You filed, he said, not a question. I did. That makes it harder to undo. Some things shouldn't be undone. He rubbed his forehead. You could have called me first. I did, I said. You asked for gracious. I chose rules. He searched my face for a softer version of me. I gave him the true one. Okay, he said finally. Then, good luck. It cost him to say it. I don't need luck, I said. I need Thursday. He nodded, eyes dropping to the highlighted rule on my table. You always were a highlighter. It was almost a smile. When he left, the house took a long, even breath. I checked the inbox again. Another email from Carla, Ord packet guidelines. At the bottom, a single line, witnesses may be asked clarifying questions, hearsay limited. Mrs. Lane's half sentence sat there like a folded note. One line given, one held back. Enough to keep the door open without dragging her through it. I capped the marker and put it by the notice. Then I stood at the window and looked at that chair, old wood, patient angle, and let the quiet hold until the next move announced itself. By morning, the porch chair had lost its cushion. Not fallen, gone. The straps dangled like punctuation. I stood in the doorway long enough to let whoever took it have their victory. Then I looked past the empty seat to the driveway and let the anger pass through like weather. Quiet pride in outmaneuvering them without stepping outside the rules. At 7:42 p.m., Rosa's name lit my phone with a calendar banner over it. D4. We had scheduled a board participant prep call the admin sent to all parties. Open link, optional, recorded by default. Rosa joined from her desk. I sat at my kitchen table with the briefcase open like a mouth waiting. Ready? Rosa asked, earbuds in. Shameful. Remember, we capture what's public. Got it. Tweet 3 names. Board admin read ground rules, time limits, decorum, what exhibits look like. Half the attendees stayed muted and did their own side conversations anyway. A square labeled C. Monroe clicked on, off, on again. Then the mistake happened. Madison joined from the main house and forgot she wasn't muted. Position, "Doesn't matter, Dad," her voice said, bright and tight. Just say he left them stranded. People won't check. A Joe Charles's baritone slid in too close to the mic. We'll lean on elder confusion. It tests well. Rosa's eyes wide and lifted a hand. Steady. Admin kept reading, didn't notice, or noticed and let the rope play out. Ethan's square popped in and out like he couldn't decide who he was tonight. When he finally landed, he spoke straight into the void, forgetting the rest of us were there. Can we not call him confused? He isn't. Madison. Mute Ethan. Retarded. Recording has started. Board admin finally hit the button. Good. We weren't stealing anything. We were catching what they volunteered. Admin. All right, everyone. Logistics will be emailed. Please refrain from sidebar chatter. Anked. Silence. Madison's tile went dark. Charles's mic cut. Rosa mouthed, "Got it," to me and tapped the red circle on her own screen. She was recording her own device in a public prep session with the on-screen notice blazing. Clean. When the call ended, Rosa rang me back, breathless like a teacher who'd finally gotten through to a difficult class. "It's here," she said. One clip, 28 seconds, clean as winter sky. Hand to hand, I said. She arrived in 5, hair still damp from her shower, laptop under her arm. We sat at my table. She dragged the file onto my desktop. I opened it in a player and hit pause before sound. The top bar showed what I needed for the single doc beat tonight. 7:58 p.m. in the corner, metadata visible. Take screenshot, I said. She nodded. I took it a single frame with the player controls and the timestamp. I saved the image to social archive and wrote public prep call, record, notice on screen, on a sticky note we stuck to the sleeve. Then we played it once, sound low. Won't check, Madison said. Tests well, Charles said. Ethan quiet but audible. He isn't. We stopped playback. The room didn't need more. Rosa exhaled. Is this admissible? It's honest. I set a thumb on the space bar without pressing. Truth doesn't mind being recorded. Her eyes flicked to the porch. They took your cushion, she said softly. I noticed. She hesitated. I have one more thing I could say about who bragged in the alley after the porch video, but I should save it for Thursday. If I say it here, it becomes neighborhood talk. Save it, I said. Let the gavel ask for it. She nodded, relief and reluctance sharing space. Okay. She slid a small USB out of her pocket. Mirror of the clip, straight off my machine. Label it however you label things. I slotted it in. The drive icon bloomed. I copied the file, watched the progress bar creep to 100, and ejected the USB like it was a small ceremony. Chain of custody is mostly respect. My phone buzzed. Ethan. Cheetaitic. You? Record that? He asked, voice already defensive. It was a public prep call, I said. The admin recorded it too. That's not what I asked. It feels like a line. You're worried about lines now? Relegally, morally, whatever. It's ugly. Stabilized on my porch, I said. Tonight we made it visible. A company. So you're going to play it? His voice thinned. In front of everyone? If asked. Dad, please. Paralyzed. Whose side are you on? He took too long to answer. I'm on the side where we don't torch the last bridge. Bridges carry weight, I said. They aren't decorations. Silence hummed between us. He tried a different tack. What if the board thinks it's entrapment? It's a public call with a recording banner. If they don't like the content, that's not entrapment, that's embarrassment. Okay, he said finally, beaten by the obvious. Good night. After we hung up, Rosa watched me file. You're steady, she said. I'd be shaking. I used to, I said. I learned to use the shake for the signature. She smiled at that. Then her face settled into the teacher look again. One last question, then I really will save the rest for the board. Do you plan to ask Mrs. Lane about what she heard? Yes. Posing chewed her lip. And, if you ask me who told Charles to crop the clip, back I won't, I said. Not until we're under the rules. She breathed out. Thank you. She stood at the door. She glanced at the empty to me to bring over a cushion. No, I said. Let it sit honest for a few days. Hit play once more and let the 28 seconds run. On screen, the time in the player window ticked. 0:26:28. I paused at 0:27 and took one more screenshot. The last moment where all three voices exist in the same breath. Then I closed the player, slid the images into social archive, and labeled the audio prep call 12/24/1958.wav. Shom buzzed again. Unknown. Zurich's go to voicemail. The transcript came up 2 lines only. This is Charles. Oregon's a 2-party state. You sure you want to play lawyer? I didn't call back. I opened the admin email instead. Reminder, prep session may be recorded for training purposes. The footer was my answer. Hailed. Outside, the porch chair sat bare, wood darkened by night. I stood with one hand on the briefcase until my pulse matched the slow blink of the modem light, and stopped before the need to tell someone what I had did the talking for me. The boardroom smelled like carpet glue and coffee that forgot to be warm. A corkboard in the hallway carried the agenda with a black D2 sharpied in the corner like a warning label. I paused long enough for the number to lodge where resolve lives, then took my seat at the far end of the U table. The chair, Mrs. Paxton, silver bob, legal pad aligned with a ruler's faith, rapped once. Meeting called to order. We'll begin with conduct matters. Charles's smile was for Christmas cards. Madam Chair, before we waste the board's time, a motion to dismiss Mr. Ramirez's complaint on procedural grounds. He slid a one-page handout down the line. His evidence includes surreptitious audio. Our rules prohibit unauthorized recording. I folded my hands. Public prep call, recording banner on. Didn't look at me. And Mr. Ramirez has engaged in lock changes intended to intimidate family. This is a lifestyle dispute, not a board matter. Ison leaned into her mic, the lens of a phone that wasn't there. He's been volatile. We've all seen how he gets when he's confused. Ethan stared at the wood grain. Mrs. Paxton turned to me. Mr. Ramirez, you'll have time to speak. For now, we're on the motion. Another member, Tom in a fleece vest with the HOA logo like a merit badge, cleared his throat. I second. The chair nodded. Discussion? Charles took that as an invitation to perform. We all respect our elders, he said, hands open. But weaponizing technology against your neighbors? During the holidays? The optics are... Windshield are, I said. Madison's glance at Ethan was stage direction. You've seen how he gets, she said, soft enough to read his concern, sharp enough to cut anyway. Ethan looked from her to me, jaw tight. He didn't help her. He didn't help me. He sat. The cold weight of being judged before speaking. I breathed once, shallow, then set my voice where steel hides in wood. I filed under your rule on harassment, I said to the board, not to them. I brought one copy of everything. The recording was public. The banner was on. If you don't like what you hear, that's taste, not procedure. Charles laughed a little. Hear that? He intends to play it. Spectacle. Procedure, I repeated. You read it before you said yes to your house keys. Tom flipped my packet without reading. Feels like a family thing to me. Madison nodded, small and sympathetic. Exactly. We asked him to join us New Year's instead. He escalated. Chair tapped her pen. Whether it feels domestic is separate from policy. The rule Mr. Ramirez highlighted is plain. She turned to Charles. Do you dispute the hallway recording? We dispute the context, he said smoothly, and we dispute the spirit, dragging private tensions onto this stage. I looked down the U table, past the plastic cups and the staplers with no staples left. I was dragged, I said, by a camera held inches from my face. Tom shrugged. He's got a point about tone, holiday, leeway, and all. Madison reached for Ethan's hand. He didn't offer it. She took his wrist instead and spoke into the mic like a nurse. He locked us out on Christmas Eve. I kept my eyes on the chair. I replaced a worn cylinder on my guest house at 9 a.m. with a licensed locksmith and a stamped order the board can view Thursday. Keys that don't turn aren't feelings. Forge leaned in. Madam Chair, we don't need to be lectured by a man who refuses rides to the airport for aging in-laws in a storm. A board member at the far end, Miss Hill, librarian posture, eyes that count things, tilted her head. Is that why you filmed him on his porch? Charles smiled wider. We filmed our truth. Truth doesn't mind being recorded, I said. Miss Hill's mouth twitched. Noted. Sighed. Can we vote? My kids have rehearsal. Chair straightened a stack of forms that didn't need straightening. Motion to dismiss for procedure. Pens lifted. Hands started to rise. Madam Chair, Miss Hill said, not loud, very clear. Hands froze. Before we toss this as family drama, I would prefer to hear it in full on Thursday with exhibits. We can always dismiss after hearing if it's nonsense. But dismissing blind is sloppy. The room clicked one notch quieter. Even Charles didn't love the word sloppy on the minutes. Agreed, the chair said, and Tom didn't quite hide his annoyance. Madison leaned forward, voice velvet over sand. We're trying to prevent a spectacle. You began one, I said, and the chair legs under Ethan creaked as he shifted hard. Charles recovered. Fine. But the board should note Mr. Ramirez's deteriorating state. He insists strangers live in his head rent-free. He's... Mush. Stop, Ethan said, quick and low into his mic by accident. The sound carried. He closed his eyes. Don't call him that. Madison's hand slipped off his wrist. She turned her face half a degree and rearranged her expression. The chair capped her pen. We'll limit adjectives to evidence, Mr. Monroe. Charles nodded without agreeing. Ms. Hill looked at me. Mr. Ramirez, do you intend to bring witnesses other than yourself? Yes, I said. 2 neighbors saw the camera at my door. One heard the words that guided it. They'll speak if asked. The chair checked her agenda. The D2 in the hallway had been for all of us. The clock on the wall said we were late anyway. This isn't Thursday, she reminded. Tonight is scope and order. Scope, Charles said smoothly. Family tiff, order, dismissal, murmured, almost to herself, includes listening. Tom rolled his pen between his fingers. We are making this big, and it will look bad. For everyone. Madison latched on to that like a life ring, which is why we should end it now. He would at who was doing the math of love versus shame in his head. You don't end something by pretending it never happened, I said. You end it by saying what happened, in the room that keeps score. Charles tapped his pages into a neat stack. Your score, he said, almost tender, is going to be 0. If I get anything, I said, letting the line land where it wanted, it's the truth you're afraid of. Silence. Chairs breathed. Ms. Hill's mouth moved around the thought and decided not to smile. The chair rapped once. Enough. We will not adjudicate tonight. Motion to dismiss is tabled to Thursday, at which time the board will view exhibits and hear witnesses. Parties are directed to submit 1-page summaries by noon tomorrow. No social media commentary by either side until the hearing. Yes, that's a request, not an enforceable order. We're done. As we stood, I caught Ethan's eye. He looked like a man halfway out of a coat that doesn't fit. In the hallway, the corkboard agenda with D-2 sat under a thumbtack that had bent with use. A kid's flyer for a lost drone overlapped one corner. Life kept happening even when yours stalled. Outside, under the sodium light, the rectangle on my porch where the chair used to be showed lighter wood, a ghost square that the sun hadn't touched in years. Bare, honest, ready. Mr. Ramirez, Mrs. Paxton called from the doorway. We'll deliberate without you. The door eased shut. Muffled voices took the room I wanted and left me with the quiet, and the number on the paper in the hall counting down like a metronome you can't switch off. By dusk, someone had delivered a chair to my porch. Not mine, wrong wood, wrong height, factory stain pretending to be cedar. It sat exactly where my chair used to live, like an imposter wearing my jacket to a party. I stood in the doorway and looked at it long enough to understand the message. Then I shut the door on it. Inside, the hearing notice hung at eye level, D1 taped to the glass. I pressed the tape down with a thumb the way you do when you don't want the wind deciding anything. The bank app refused my face. Then my passcode. Then it let me in and slapped me with a banner dressed in cordial authority. Account activity temporarily restricted. See message. I opened the message. The header wore the bank's crest and today's date. The body wore carefully vague language about unusual activity and pending verification. It was a freeze with a smile. Sakadni, the number that apologized in seasons. When a person arrived, she sounded helpful by training and helpless by policy.
Caution, prerequisite.
I made the wire, I said. Escrow, you can see the timestamp.
Yes, that's noted.
Her keyboard clicked like rain.
There was also a series of small test transactions from a vendor.
Which vendor?
Disillusion.
Allowed to disclose pending review. Your account should be fully available within 72 hours.
Perkins is tomorrow at 10.
I'm sorry. I D1 through the glass, the black marker square around it steadying and mocking at the same time, feeling boxed in with no air. I thanked her for what she couldn't do and hung up. A tap at the front window. Neighbor kid Max, with a skateboard under one sneaker. His mother, Tasha, stood in the walk, pretending to check her phone. Mr. Ramirez, Max said. Mom says ask you if you're okay. I'm fine, I said, because adults say that even when they aren't. Tasha lifted her eyes. People are saying things, she said carefully, about you yelling, about confusion. People is doing a lot of work in that sentence, he said, a little relieved laugh. that still hurt to hear. Charles was talking loud at the mailbox. What did he say? That you left his wife's parents stranded, that you locked your family out on purpose, that you're, she made a face, slipping. Thank you for telling me. She lowered her voice. For what it's worth, my mother slips. You don't sound like her, call me, if you need anything. Bring the skateboard in before someone breaks a wrist, I said to Max. He grinned and saluted with it. They moved on. The phone rang, Madison. Walter, she said brightly, you left a chair on the porch. How sweet. That chair isn't mine. Unchanged, cheerful. Climbed what grave with balloons, I said. Laughed. Don't be dramatic. Tomorrow will be boring. We'll all say our piece, and the board will tell you to stop filming people. You started filming people. Prejudice. It's so hard to be kind to you. And be honest. The silence sit until it got rude. Oh, and if you're hearing chatter, people mix things up. I can't control the neighborhood rumor mill. Can you control your father at the mailbox? A community builder, she said sweetly. He runs into people. Mistaken my silence for surrender, her voice cooled. You're really going to play whatever little clip you think you have? If asked. Careful, she said, brightness gone. Oregon loves privacy. Board loves rules. You'll be unhappy either way, she said, and hung up like that was a gift. I went to the fridge and slid the bank letter under the magnet beneath D-1. The crest and date sat there like a smug watermark. One doc beat per chapter is a discipline. Tonight, it was a shield. I took a single photo of the letter in place, header and date visible, and filed it under Finance, Freeze, with a note. Called support, 6:31 p.m. Rep said 72 hours. Legalize, the wrong chair caught the glow from the porch light in a way my chair never did. My chair used to absorb light. This one reflected it like a tooth. Can't talk right now. Then nothing. Then typing. Then nothing again. I typed, I need to know if you're going to repeat their lines tomorrow or your own. Propagate dots. No reply. I left the house and walked the block. At the corner, Mrs. Lane's dog sniffed the same patch of curb like it had secrets. Across the street, two neighbors lowered their voices as I passed. Madison's parents' sedan sat under the elm like it owned shade. The town hum had a new note in it, pitched to make you doubt yourself on the walk home. Back in the kitchen, the briefcase sat open and expectant. I shuffled the packet to the top. Escrow confirmation, locksmith work order, HOA rule highlight, Rosa's clip frame. The bank freeze letter went last, not because it was weakest, but because it was angriest. Anger belongs at the end of a stack, heavy enough to keep the rest from sliding. A chime on my laptop, a new post in the neighborhood group. Reminder, please be considerate with noise this season. Below it, a comment from an account I didn't recognize. Some folks don't know when to stop shouting. Another, prayers for families dealing with aging parents. The thread looked like a smile with gums showing. A, closed the browser before my hands did something my head would hate. I took one more look at D11 through the glass. The phone vibrated across the table at 9:43 p.m. Voicemail, 07. Ethan, no call, just the message. I let it play through the speaker. Subjected is tight with something he didn't want to name. We need to talk before tomorrow. Oli. The message ended there. No where, no why, just the weight of it. I stared at the wrong chair through the window until the porch light timer clicked and left it sitting in the dark, looking exactly like what it was, an attempt to make me sit somewhere that didn't fit. The clerk slid the file under the glass and flattened it with 2 fingers so the seal caught light. Filed August 15, effective immediately. The rubber left a round bruise of ink on the page that felt more permanent than anything we'd said in that room yesterday. Mr. Ramirez, she said, voice neutral in a way that read like kindness. The registry entry is updated. Enforcement is active. You'll get the digital copy in an hour. I'll take the stamped one, I said. She smiled with her eyes. Most people do. Behind me, chairs scraped. Madison and Charles stood with the posture of people who thought posture might still work. Rosa hovered near the door like a good neighbor who knows when to be a witness and when not to be a chorus. The board rep cleared his throat. Keys, he said. Charles produced a ring and let it clatter onto the counter, theatrically reluctant. Madison set one key beside it, metal ticking on laminate like a small clock that had just stopped. Blankets counted quietly. Main house, guest house, mailbox. She pushed a receipt through the slot for my signature and turned the monitor so they could see the same registry screen I could. My name in the field that decides who answers doors. Madison exhaled a brittle laugh. So that's it. A stamp in a name field? That's it, the clerk said. That's all.
Ridiculous.
Outside, August light did what it always does, pretended it had nothing to do with any of us. We walked to the cars together without trying to. At the curb, Madison turned. You didn't have to take the theater all the way to paper? Ulysses. You brought me to the stage, I said. I learned the script. You think this makes you safe? She asked, the smile back, thin as foil. It makes me correct. I let the weight of the packet settle against my palm. Calm satisfaction, tempered by what's gone. This time the paper works in my favor. Charles lifted his chin. Enjoy your little victory. It isn't little, I said. It's lawful. Rosa touched my sleeve. Need a ride to the property? I'll meet you there. We didn't race. Enforcement doesn't rush. It arrives. At the house, the porch looked like a face that had decided its own expression. The wrong chair was gone. No note, no apology. On the siding beside the guest house door, the board notice was already taped at eye level. The seal glinted where the tape crossed it. Filed, Aug 15. Effective immediately. The board rep affixed a second copy to the main house corkboard in the entry. Reading the line out loud for the video the clerk held on a tablet. Notice posted, keys surrendered, registry updated. Procedure can sound like poetry when it lands. Madison stood just inside the threshold, fingers white on her phone. We'll appeal, she said to the air. You'll file a letter, the rep said. Appeal requires grounds. Unthinkable like I was the grounds. You could still be decent. I am, I said. Decent enough to stop pretending. Charles gestured at the gen, I suppose. Commuted, I said, cleared her throat. Can I get a shot of the notice for your file? She added to no one in particular. Go ahead, the rep said, stepping aside so her frame could hold the seal and the date in a single, unambiguous rectangle. One doc, one cue. Done. Madison pocketed her phone and walked past me toward the driveway. You'll feel alone, she said, not turning. I already did, I said evenly. Charles lingered a beat longer, then followed, shoulders set against a verdict that didn't need my permission. The rep shook my hand. We're done here, Mr. Ramirez. Thank you. He left with the clerk, their shoes making the kind of bureaucratic rhythm I've come to respect. Rosa closed her camera app and squeezed my arm once. I'll be down the block if you need a second pair of eyes. I'll be all right, I said. When the cars were gone and the house exhaled, I brought the old chair out from the shed, real wood, honest height. It creaked like a friend who had earned the right to creak. I set it where it always sat and let the boards remember its weight. I didn't pour a drink. I didn't call anyone. I sat. Across the way, a boy rode his skateboard, too slow for the trick he wanted to try. A cloud decided to be a cloud and covered the sun without meaning anything by it. Through the glass, the notice on the door held its round seal the way a good joint holds a house square. I put the stamped packet under my hand on the armrest and let the heat run through the paper to my skin. This is secure, not simple. The difference matters. No speeches, no victory lap, just a chair that fit and a door that would answer to me when I used my key. The house settled into a quieter season, and so did I. Patience did what anger couldn't set things right without breaking what still mattered. Some names stay crossed out, but dignity doesn't. Next Christmas dinner, I'll bring silence and keep my seat. I lean back, the old porch chair taking my weight with a clean, honest creak. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Type 1 if you resonate with this story.